Good evening and welcome to 5 News with me, Sian Williams.
And me, Claudia Liza van der Pooy. Our headlines tonight. Russia orders troops into Ukraine.
Moscow set on live in the Ukrainian capital Kiev to assess the mood there.
Also coming up, Scotland follows England in lifting most COVID legal restrictions. Masks.
Hello. Russia has ordered its tanks into Ukraine in what's being seen as the start of a full-scale invasion. President Putin made the move after declaring 2 rebel-held regions to be independent, claiming the troops would act as peacekeepers. In the House of Commons, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson warned of a protracted crisis and announced what he called the first barrage of sanctions against Russian interests. Other Western countries have also taken action targeting banks, businesses, billionaires and politicians. There are calls for them to go even further. Our political editor, Andy Bell, reports. Well, Ukraine might feel a long way away, but it is in Europe, and the effects of what happens there are felt right around the globe, including here in the UK. And Julian's here to explain why. Julian.
Yeah, Sean, let's look again at where we're talking about. This is Donetsk and Luhansk. These are the 2 Moscow-backed rebel regions, which they self-declared themselves as republics in 2014. Now, overnight, troops and armour were moved in after President Putin recognised their independence. What was one of the first effects? Well, the global markets fell almost immediately, although they've been jittery for a few weeks. This is where it starts to filter through to millions of people. If you've got a pension, it'll be linked to stocks and shares, so the value of your pension will have fallen today. Oil prices, though, have actually risen. That's because Russia is a major oil producer, the second biggest in the world. Any instability around Russia sends it soaring. That affects the price of pretty much everything and the cost of transporting goods. Want to send troops in. Well, we've heard lots today in Andy's report about sanctions. That is essentially putting a country on the naughty step. Lots of economic sanctions are being considered at the West, doing things like freezing the assets of wealthy Russian individuals, blocking Russia from sending goods overseas. But do they actually work?
Thanks very much for that. Let's go back to Andy Bell now. Andy, after weeks of talks and warnings, it feels like the worst-case scenario could now be happening. Do you think the crisis is going to escalate? There seems to be a clear difference, isn't there, between what's happening to restrictions in England and the rest of the UK. Who's got it right? That's what we want to know today, CL.
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? After the break.
Hello and welcome back. This is 5 News and this is our top story tonight. The Prime Minister to play out. Peter Dickinson joins us. He's a British journalist. The situation like in Ukraine and in the capital where you are. What's the mood? He doesn't like the invaded. Is there anything the West can do at this stage? He's more concerned with the security than he is about the economy, and that security will always come first. So, in effect, will sanctions make any difference to a further expansion in Ukraine?
Going on.
I know.
Well, speaking of weather, we've got the quick forecast for you. See you in a sec.
Jeremy, thank you. And we've been asking for your thoughts on the path England is taking on COVID compared to Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. CL, what's the 5 phone telling us tonight?
You know, very similar to some of the Voxes we did in Scotland and around the rest of the country. Lots of mixed views.
Western leaders saying Russia's invasion of Ukraine has begun. And we saw tanks rolling to regions of Ukraine that are held by Russian separatists. Last night, President Putin used a televised address to his nation to recognise those 2 breakaway regions. But it's the way he did it which really shocked people. Take a listen. Here he is talking about how he thinks Ukraine might build nuclear weapons.
These 5 News.
What an inspirational bloke. We're going to take a short break now, aren't we? In a few minutes. About going for it. I'll do the stone, you do the sweeping, or I'll do the sweeping, you do the stone.
Not in these hills, Sean.
Yeah,
Not in these
yeah,
hills.
exactly.
I think you change shoes, though, right?
That is it. We will see you again tomorrow at 5.
Alex has the weather next. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.